In the previous entry to our greatest house episode search, we talked about Broken, the storyline that started off season 6 with a bang, or maybe a slam. We took a look at our favorite, grumpy, hedonistic pill-popping, comb and iron kneading, snake oil salesman, Gregory Raisinette House.
You're insane.
I'm an insane genius.
Who spent his Airbnb credit at an inpatient psych unit, and ended up leaving a pretty positive review. Broken is the third of 3 multi-episode storylines in House, the other 2 being House's Head and Wilson's Heart, and Euphoria. Only one of these 3 entries premiere back-to-back nights, helping cure the millennial disease of impatience.
What is taking so long?
All 3 of these storylines are among the show's best, and they all stand out for different reasons. This might be like comparing apples to oranges, but damn if I'm not gonna try. Euphoria Part 1 and 2 premiered May 2nd and 3rd, 2006, and started off seemingly like most House episodes. It starts with a police officer named Joe chasing a suspect down several alleys, and when he catches him, Joe starts to act strangely, maniacally laugh, even after being shot. House and company inherit the case and begin to do their normal regime of testing. Foreman searches Joe's place. They believe they get a correct diagnosis in Legionnaire's disease, but after returning from Joe's apartment, Foreman seems off. And it's when Joe starts to go into shock and bleed out of his eyeballs that Foreman breaks out in that same uncontrollable laughter we saw before. We know Foreman might have the same infection as Joe. Foreman and Joe are isolated together, while House and the rest of the team try to figure out what they both seemingly have. They do a brain biopsy on Foreman and find nothing. Afterwards, Foreman stabs Cameron with a needle he dropped earlier.
You can go tell House what just happened and get your own cardboard in here, or you can go back to that apartment. You save me, yourself.
Like, dude, I know you're sick, but what a dick move.
That's the last time you put a knife in me.
Joe's pain begins to get increasingly worse and unbearable. House orders Chase to put Joe in a coma. Unfortunately, Joe suffers a heart attack, leaving Foreman to try to save him, unsuccessfully. Foreman is now alone, as the sole survivor of whatever he has. House and company want to do an autopsy on Joe's body, but Cuddy forbids them, saying it's against a CDC guideline. As Foreman's condition worsens, we meet Foreman's father. Cameron becomes his medical proxy, and Foreman asks Cameron to forgive him for some professionally unethical actions in previous episodes. Cameron eventually accepts, just before they too put Foreman into a coma. As a last-ditch effort, the team readies to do a deeper brain biopsy, which might cause permanent damage. House returns to Joe's apartment and sees blind pigeons, finally discovering the existence of Niglaria. But it's too late. The biopsy was already performed, and while Foreman does survive, we're left unsure of his cognitive state. Broken and House's Head Wilson's Heart feel unique and very different from literally the first scene. Broken is a whole different environment and cast, and House's Head and Wilson's Heart benefit from a different format too. Euphoria isn't like these. Euphoria is a quintessential textbook House episode at its best. Take that as a positive or a negative, but I think it's true. It truly fits the mold of being a typical story. The episode starts by presenting a mystery patient who falls ill. They have an enigmatic condition. They search his place, shoot off a bunch of random incorrect diagnoses, and try a bunch of treatments that don't work. The patient gets worse throughout. Other things that make this a typical House episode: clinic duty shenanigans, House bribing Cuddy to break protocol. We've seen this all before. Foreman getting sick and almost taking a permanent nap in the big couch in the sky does not fit this formula though, which is one of the reasons Euphoria stands out. But before we talk about the good stuff in this, I want to hit the bad, because you always deliver bad news first, right? Euphoria has some of the most ridiculous and medically inaccurate things the show has probably ever thrown our way. I'll be the first to admit we don't think accuracy when we think House, but hey, the show's gonna show and we love it. This scene in particular goes so extra it literally kills me. House and company want to do an MRI on Joe, but are worried the shattered bullet he was hit with might injure him during the scan. So House goes into the morgue and shoots a corpse in the head with apparently the same type of bullet. Yeah, okay, cool. Like, this is insane. Not only does he destroy the MRI machine, but when Cuddy confronts him, he says, oh well, medical students would have fucked that body up even worse. Like, what is happening? Also later, House does surgery on Foreman and does a different procedure than what was agreed upon. Can you imagine your surgeon having you sign consent for surgery and then they just kind of like fuck around in your brain and do other stuff?
I didn't get permission for this.
Another thing that cracks me up about Euphoria, they realize to buy Foreman time, they have to infect him with another disease. Okay, that's not that unbelievable, but the way House infects him by lightly chucking a vial of Legionella into his room. Like, House, aren't you worried you're gonna get sick before this slow door shuts? I also love how every single scene with Wilson in this episode, House is just in his office and Wilson just kind of walks in and just starts grilling him. This makes me crack up because I think about the meme. Look up the House rat bite meme if you haven't seen it. It's the funniest thing ever.
I tried the stupid drug. You are a black man. This vexes me.
Euphoria also focuses less on House and more on Foreman and Cameron too. I used to think episodes with less House were worse, but this might be one of the exceptions. And on that note, let's highlight why this is actually a really good episode. Euphoria has a lot of intelligent, nuanced moments we don't see in the show often. When the dying patient and Foreman agree to pray together out of fear, even though they both admit they don't think it'll do anything. Or Wilson pointing out House's guilt and Foreman becoming sick, something we don't see from House very often.
When you don't give a crap
How many
about...
of your guys have caught cancer from their patients? Let me know when that happens, and we can have this conversation.
Even Cameron getting her own mini character arc about her relationship with Foreman, and putting herself in danger to help someone who said I'm not your friend. Even after Foreman stabbed her with a possibly infected needle, she did the honorable thing. Euphoria is probably one of the best episodes at showcasing the acting range and character development of our three beloved characters. House's screen time is reduced significantly, and some don't like that, but it works here in the context of this story's narrative. Foreman and Cameron get a lot of room to perform in this two-parter. After all, the stakes are really high. I gotta imagine if you're watching this back in 2006, until the final few minutes, it truly appeared like Foreman was gonna die. His dad saying goodbye, Foreman nominating Cameron as his proxy, entering a coma. House appears to get the diagnosis incorrect again at the end of the second episode before he figures out it was Naegleria. It appears like Foreman might not be the same annoying doctor we've come to bear, after he's unable to wiggle his toes and has right-left reversal. Omar Epps does an excellent job carrying this episode on his own. We see range from Foreman we've never seen before, his fear of impending pain and torture, his emotional conversation with his father, learning about his family relationships, and even lying to him not to exacerbate his worrying, stabbing Cameron with his sample. Not everybody is a Boy Scout in the face of death. There are parallels to House's own personal medical journey in Euphoria as well, being put into a coma to get through pain, securing a medical proxy. This exact story was discussed almost 1 year ago in Season 1. So, is this the greatest House episode? I don't think so. I'd rank it somewhere in the top 10. But this is a great episode with high stakes, good character development for House's team, some incredible acting from those other than Hugh Laurie for once. Honestly, it was an enjoyable watch, and one that I know most people love.